The Batman looks to approach $130 million in the domestic haul for its opening weekend. Very, very good haul. Not quite what some of the analysts had projected, but certainly still better than what I thought would happen based on the Thursday preview numbers that we discussed in the last video. We're going to talk about some of this and some of the other numbers that have been updated and adjusted since then, which is certainly going to have an impact on how this movie is going to perform financially over the course of its run. Stay tuned. Let's get into it. Renegade Online. Well, welcome back, folks. Another great day here at Valiant Renegade. Good Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon to you, depending on where you are. It's good to see everybody out there. And again, if you are like one of the 60 or 70% of folks watching this video that are not yet subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and take care of that right now. That little subscribe button down there is begging you to do it. It looks so good. Just push the button. It'll be so happy. So will YouTube, but I appreciate you being here nonetheless. Please hit that like button as well. Share this sucker out on the social medias. Hit that notification bell, and do leave a comment before you head out today. I always love to hear feedback from people that have watched the video, that have some of their own thoughts, especially on this kind of thing. Let me know if you've seen this movie or not, what you thought about it. Let me know what you think about the box office going on. I have not had an opportunity to see this. As I said in the previous video, this wasn't really on my radar. I'm kind of Batmaned out after so many iterations. Now, I'm not here to tell you that the movie was good or bad. I've had a lot of friends that have enjoyed the film. I've had a number of friends that have not liked it as much, and I have a lot of folks in the middle. Again, I'm kind of indifferent on this. It may be a case for me to where I wait until this drops in about 45 days or so onto HBO Max before I'm able to catch it. It's also just a matter of time for me to go sit through a movie like this. So if you enjoyed it, great. If you didn't, that's fine too. We welcome all opinions on these kind of things here. Nobody's going to get made fun of one way or the other. I know that happens a lot on the social medias with movies like this. Can sometimes be polarizing issues, but we just want to talk about the business angle of this film, the financial angle of this film, because that's what we do here on this channel. We put Hollywood and the entertainment industry through the business and financial lens of reality. That is our mantra here on Valiant Renegade. So also, please don't forget, we have a live stream on Sundays at 5 o'clock Central Standard Time in the U.S. where we discuss all these kinds of topics in a little bit more detail. Make sure you come back by later today to check out that show, Renegade Online. Let's talk about this. We're looking at about a $128 million domestic opening for this film as at this point. That number could actually go up and breach the 130 million mark. I think it has a good chance of doing that. It seems, based on initial reports that we had from Thursday night previews, which again we talked about in the previous videos, and I was looking to compare it to how Spider-Man No Way Home did. Not to say that I expected in any sense that Batman, or The Batman as this one is called, would approach the overall total gross performance of Spider-Man No Way Home's $260 million opening weekend. But I do look to compare the numbers on how the Thursday previews relate to the Friday total haul, and then the Friday total haul compared to the overall weekend in terms of percentages. So if we look back at Spider-Man No Way Home, we know that it had about a $50 million Thursday night preview haul. That represented around 41% of the total Friday take. So with Friday, the full Friday, and the Thursday previews added in, the $50 million was about 41% of that total. Now, what I told you in that video is that if that held up, that would put the Batman somewhere around $110 million for the weekend. I did say, however, if the trajectory of that performance altered, meaning if word of mouth was better than expected and more people showed up and had a little bit stronger pacing as compared to its Thursday night previews, that those figures could be higher. And indeed, that seems to be exactly what happened. So what actually wound up happening with The Batman was that the Thursday night previews wound up repping around 38% of the Friday total haul, meaning the Friday performance compared to the Thursday performance as it related to the same type of thing with Spider-Man No Way Home actually outperformed it by about 3%. Whereas again, Spider-Man's was 41%, Batman's was 38, which means the Friday was a little bit better. In terms of the total weekend, the Friday overall for Spider-Man represented about 47% of the total weekend haul, whereas the Batman's opening Friday represented around 44% of the total weekend haul, meaning again that Saturday and Sunday overperformed the trajectory for the same weekend that Spider-Man had relative to its opening day on Friday. So again, great news for Batman, and that is why instead of the 110 million or so that we got, we're now pushing higher towards the 125 to 130 range according to industry projections. So let's start with this article from one of our favorite authors over at Deadline, Anthony D'Alessandro. And this is from this morning, the Sunday AM update. In another clear sign that moviegoing is alive and well, despite ceasing during the pandemic, the Warner Brothers' The Batman is delivering the second best opening since 2019. That's after Spider-Man No Way Home, with 128.5 million after a $43.2 million Saturday, which was 24% down against the Pic's opening Friday. Around the globe, Batman made just shy of 250 million, which again, some of the earlier projections as of Thursday and Friday when this came out was around 225. So it's beat that pretty solidly by around 10% or so, which is a great sign for this movie. And there's a very good chance by tomorrow morning, Monday morning, that Batman could rise. This is once the final official figures are in, beyond 130 million. So we'll know again more by tomorrow late morning, tomorrow early afternoon, again, depending where you are. With an overseas take of 120 million, Batman is the biggest international industry opening this year, 2022, to date, and the biggest Warner Brothers opening weekend since The Joker, and the studio's best pandemic-era foreign debut, Sans China. Now, again, this movie does have a reported Chinese release date in a few weeks, I believe on March 18th, if I'm not mistaken. So that is definitely going to add to the pot once that market opens, and we're going to see how well that market reacts. Again, bear in mind that the studios only get to take home around 25% of the total haul from Chinese markets, whereas in other international markets outside of the US and Canada, studios take home usually on average around 42% of the global take, whereas, of course, in the States, they usually take home 50 to 55%. Now, again, this is a movie that finally has a 45-day exclusive window. And let's talk about this for a second because this is important to understand. If we go back, and we've talked about this in previous videos as well, we know that in the late part of 2020, when Wonder Woman 1984 came out, Jason Killar, Warner Media's CEO, kind of shocked the theatrical industry and audiences in general when he announced, to the surprise of even a lot of the talent and the producers and directors and so on of these films that they had slated for 2021, that they would be released day and date on HBO Max with their theatrical releases in a little program called Project Popcorn. Now, of course, Jason Killar in the last couple of months touted the success of Project Popcorn, saying that this was able to drive a lot of new subscribers to HBO Max. And to be sure, HBO Max had some good steady growth during 2021, averaging around 2 to 2.5 million new subs per fiscal quarter. It wasn't anything that grand, though. And when we look at the performance of this movie right now, The Batman, we're seeing part of what I've been saying for months, that I thought that Project Popcorn was a huge mistake because it left potentially billions of dollars in global grosses on the table for Warner Brothers to basically help pay back what they or recoup some of the costs of what these movies involved in terms of production and marketing. And again, doing a day and date release also dictated that theatrical exhibitioners like AMC and Cinemark were certainly going to give less of the house take back to the studio because of the sacrifice of having a concurrent streaming release, right? That means not as many people were going to show up at the theater. A lot of folks were going to decide to stay home and watch the movies on the same day, the same weekend on HBO Max for no additional premium charge. So theaters are not just going to offer their valuable real estate and exhibition space for free. And certainly studios that did that with the day and date releases were going to be financially penalized. Sony Pictures was one of the only studios to really honor a traditional theatrical window, which is why Sony Studios was able to keep a much higher or more traditional piece of the box office pie as compared to, say, a Warner Brothers for sure, or Disney in many cases, which was also doing premium video on demand releases right up through Black Widow, and then at least going to a 45-day theatrically exclusive window after that, starting with Shang-Chi. This is what Warner Brothers is doing now. And again, we can see the results of this, giving them a much better take of overall financial success here, because nothing will ever beat box office returns when it comes to recouping production costs for a film of this magnitude. And let's go into that because something changed officially since Friday on the numbers. So let's look here. The Batman, $128.5 million for the weekend as of right now. Now, if you go back and you watch the video that we put out Friday morning with the Thursday previews, you'll remember that the production budget was listed on the numbers at $100 million. And I realized there was some consternation over that. Was that really the case? Well, the numbers were still at that time using the original production budget estimates, and they had not updated it. They have since updated it. And they are now showing the production budget at $200 million, which, again, doesn't surprise me for a movie of this scale. I thought $100 million was probably a little bit on the light side, and at the time, you had other places like Variety magazine suggesting that the production budget was much closer to $200 million. It seems that more industry sources are now officially recognizing that as the overall production budget. Some of that was due to production delays thanks to lockdowns. Some of that was due to reshoots and other production issues. But at this point, it's $200 million. So, of course, that's going to change the profitability mark of this film a good bit. So, originally, if we were looking at a $100 million production budget, and if we slapped in easily another $100 million in global P&A or marketing, print and advertising, then that would put the total all-in cost at that point around $200 million, suggesting that the film needed to breach $350 to $400 million in global haul to reach that mark of break even and then into profit territory. With a $200 million production budget now, if we still just assume the same $100 million in marketing, which again, for this kind of movie could be higher. If we go back and we look at Spider-Man No Way Home, we talked about this in some of those videos. Sony reportedly spent between $200 and $250 million in global marketing for that film. That was in addition to the $200 million base production budget that they had for that movie. So that movie had to reach a very high number, basically had to get up in the range of $700 to $800 million easily before it was able to satisfy all of its costs after they took home their portion from the grosses from AMC and Cinemark and IMAX and all these other places. The Batman could potentially be in that same category, could be in that same range if they spent as much as Sony did on the marketing. I don't know if there's anything at this point to suggest that. Deadline may come up with some numbers at some point. But let's just say that Warner Brothers' all-in cost for this film is around $300 million, including marketing. Okay? That's going to put its profitability territory somewhere in the vicinity of, let's just say, $550 to $600 million. And if that sounds wild to you, it is. But unfortunately, that's becoming more and more commonplace nowadays with these big blockbuster films. Marketing costs continue to increase dramatically year over year because of the way marketing is going now, with much more targeted marketing as opposed to broad stroke television advertising. It's a lot more online marketing that is focused on specific people. Basically, they can hone in on the demographics exactly the way they want them. Things that you really couldn't do effectively 10 or 15 years ago, not nearly to the degree that you can today. So in that case, a studio is going to be willing to pay much more per user, per exposure, per view for those kind of things because they know that view is going to be much more targeted to their key audience that they need to show up and come to the theater. So that's where we are right now with The Batman, financially speaking, looking at the box office. Now, if we go down range on this and we say based on this opening, this $250 million opening, if we give it something akin to a Spider-Man No Way Home, okay, let's just take the domestic. Spider-Man No Way Home performed roughly 3x of its opening weekend. If we take the same 3x number here for this opening weekend, and we fetter that out, it's going to get close to a $400 million in that example, in that hypothetical. It could get close to a $400 million total domestic haul, which would be great for this film. That would basically cover all the production budget and then some, or a little bit more and then some. And then, of course, the international side, if that shows up with about another $400 million or so, and we get to $800 million, then this movie has probably hit that break even and certainly made some money at that point, especially if the marketing budget is less than the $200 million or so that Sony spent for Spider-Man No Way Home. And of course, this movie, and this is the one drawback, unlike Spider-Man No Way Home, Sony is able to take that film and then turn around and have Netflix pay another couple $100 million for the rights to have that movie on Netflix, for example, for a period of time. Whereas this movie is going right to their own proprietary in-house streaming service, HBO Max, which effectively means there's no additional sources of revenue at that point for this film for Warner Brothers. Now, certainly they'll be able to still sell some Blu-rays and 4Ks and all that kind of stuff, and they'll make some money on those. Sony will also with Spider-Man No Way Home, which is set to release on PVOD and then Blu-ray discs in the next few weeks. We'll see the same thing with Batman after it gets to HBO Max, I'm sure. So keep an eye on that, but that's where we are at this point. I think this movie, where it stands right now, is on a good pace to make some money. I think it is. And again, it depending on the word of mouth, depending on, and this is the key thing, is what is this movie going to do in its second weekend, next weekend? And that's going to be a real key element. Spider-Man No Way Home came out over the Christmas holidays, so you had a lot of people off work, out of school, during the weekdays. That's not going to happen with this movie. So this movie is going to be more traditional in the sense that the box office numbers are going to be more loaded up on the weekends than they are compared to the weekdays in that case. So keep an eye on this one. We'll see what this does next weekend, if this trajectory holds. And of course, the big question mark is how well is this film going to do in China, which Spider-Man did not get a Chinese release date. But how well is this film going to do in China? I mean, if it can pick up, again, another $100 million in China gross, the studio gets to take home another $25 million. Great. That'll be a big help. If it does $200 million, even better. But we're not going to know quite yet. We're going to have to wait to see another week or two before we start getting some numbers from that. So stay tuned. Appreciate everybody being here. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Have you seen the movie? Have you not? Are you interested in seeing it? What do you think about the box office stuff? Want to hear from you. And make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Hit that notification bell. Share this sucker out on the social medias. And until next time, folks, take care.